Welcome aboard. This week's episode, Cheese Isn't Here. We get into Guardians of the Galaxy and we travel all the way back to 2011. This is Triple XP.
Triple XP.
Welcome to the latest Triple XP. I'm Shane and this is Mike.
Yo, hello.
And this week, as Cheese is busy getting some new skin art, we are joined by the Force Wielder himself, Jedi.
Hello, everyone.
Why'd you have to say it like a serial killer, Shane? Just call it a tattoo, man.
No,
skin art, you freak.
It's skin art, and I refuse to refer to it as a tattoo because it sounds so much creepier using skin art.
And to be fair, he's not putting ink on his flesh. He's putting other people's flesh on his flesh, so it kind of equals out.
Yeah. So for all of our listeners, Cheese is unfortunately double booked himself this week. He's having quite a big tattoo done, isn't he? Quite a long one, I think.
Yeah, he said this was one of his longer ones.
So he's had to bail out this week. But fortunately for us,
I think he told me it's a noodle that stretches the entire length of his arm.
Oh wow!
Well.
So yeah, quite a big one then. But fortunately for us, Jedi has stepped in not just as our co-host for this week, but also our technical expert because me and Mike can't find an on button in a dark room. We are absolutely ridiculously bad at this from a technical standpoint. But anyway, should we get straight into it then? Start off with some games.
Let's bloody do it.
Should we start with the oldest game, Mike?
Yeah. So this week, like many other weeks, I've been playing Skyrim. It's the 10-year anniversary the other day. It came out on the 11th of the 11th year, which I thought was really cool when I originally bought it 10 years ago, and I'm still playing it. I've probably played it every year since it's been out. I've bought it multiple times. I think this is maybe the 7th or 8th time I've purchased it. But the good thing about this is it has a free upgrade if you're playing with the special edition that came out last year or the year before, maybe a couple of years ago. I can't remember the exact date. But so it's the anniversary edition. It comes with a ton of additional extras, like basically you pay £15, I think it is. I don't know what it is in America.
Yeah,
it's like $20 or something like that. And you'll get basically every Creation Club bit of content there is, and there is like a fair bit. Like it's enough to warrant the purchase, definitely. If you've not bought any of the Creation Club stuff before, I bought like quite a bit of it. To be fair, I did delve into those microtransactions and bought quite a lot of it. But even with all the stuff that I've already purchased, it's still well worth the £15 that you pay for the upgrade. So for the anniversary content, rather.
Two things I was going to just quick questions. Because I've read this somewhere, and it just is it correct in saying that between the special edition and more so this anniversary edition, like this, like the ultimate update of everything, this is the most content version since the original?
Yeah. They've added a ton of new content, which includes horse armor, which I thought was pretty good. Pretty funny. If you're an old sort of Elder Scrolls fan, you'll get that joke there with the Oblivion DLC. And they've added fishing. It's another large part of it. But being honest, the fishing is utter shit. It's so crap. It's not a patch on any other fishing mini game you've ever played. It's garbage. But all of the other Creation Club stuff, like they added a ton of weapons, new armor sets. Tons of new missions, things like that, and they are like mini little stories. Like I'm really enjoying delving into these new bits of content, like so maybe 20-minute, 30-minute to an hour extras just added on, but they all pile up because there's a lot of them. So I've got a quest list as long as Cheese's arm tattoo. So I'm just piling into those. I'm really enjoying getting to play it again.
Imagine if that's what he's having tattooed on his arm, just your Skyrim quest list.
But yeah, it's more Skyrim. It's more of the same. It does look incredible on PS5. I will say it's the best looking Skyrim that I've played. I haven't played it on PC. That's the one Skyrim that I'm missing, which will be mine. She will be mine eventually. But yeah, I've been playing Skyrim. I was up till 3 again last night, just playing it. It's just to me, it's like a comfort game. I say this every time I speak about it, but it just feels like home to me. You know, like when you finally awake and then you're delving back into Skyrim, it's a good feeling. It kind of hits the nostalgia bone, and then with all this new content, it's like exciting again. So I'm happy to explore Skyrim again and try and find all this new interesting stuff that they've added in. But yeah,
I will say as well because obviously you streamed a little bit of it when you first started, like the first day on the birthday itself. You gave it a bit of a birthday stream, and I mean, anybody who knows this podcast knows my views on Skyrim. They're not great, but I've had bad experiences with it. So it's not just that I think it's an awful game; it's that I've had bad experiences with it, which have like sullied my view of it. But
So did you play it originally on the PS3?
I played the PS3 version, which was the worst, buggiest, crashiest version.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where if a dragon loaded into the game would crash and you wouldn't be able to like get back into it. So I was at a point where whenever I left this one town, a dragon would appear straight away, and within 2 minutes of loading in, it would crash and and I'd have to start the whole thing again. And I was like, nah, I'm done. But what I will say is, obviously, I've referred to it before as being quite dark and murky and brown, and the color palette being quite unpleasant, which I stand by it was. But I will admit that the PS5 version that you were playing, they've really upgraded their color palette, and the color palette pops a lot more now, particularly like the green of the scenery and that it does pop a lot more, and they have upgraded that in a way to meet the new the new console. So that does look really nice in comparison to what I remember of the older one.
Yeah, so sort of a lot of it is sort of quite a barren bit of a wasteland. It's all winter and so you do get those like dull greys and browns and stuff like that. But when you delve into like the forest areas and stuff like that, it is really vibrant, and there is a lot to see. I don't know how much you played when you originally played it, but
only about 30 hours ish.
Yeah, so even then you may have got to like some of the areas where there's sort of these underground caves, and then they open up into these vast areas, and there's like glowing neon mushrooms and all this like crazy stuff. This one particular area, I forget what it's called now, but you'll kind of know it from the glowing mushrooms when you go in there. It's this amazing like vibrant area. But there are a ton of those like little hidden areas that are just like, wow, this is like, it's pretty like breathtaking. It's such a nice bit of scenery. Like it's yeah, I think it's a pretty game. It's a really good game. I will stand by this.
Well, I will make in with regards to this podcast and your love of it, I will make the deal of I will give it a second chance via Game Pass. I'm not paying for it. I'll give it a second chance for free. But that is obviously that will be added to the backlog, so it's not going to be a second chance tomorrow because I've got stuff I'm playing right now. But I will give it a second chance when I have some spare time and there's no other big games going on that I'm interested in. Jedi, before we move forward though, have you played much Skyrim? Are you a Skyrim fan?
Yeah, so I played it when it came out. I absolutely loved it, but I don't know if I'm going to go back to it. I used to be a tester, and I don't want to be running into bugs. And I'll say this, of Skyrim bugs, I still ran into my favorite bug ever, where I got some sort of companion. We went on a side mission. Somehow or another, the companion got lost. I thought she was killed.
Is it Lydia?
I don't know who it was. I don't remember. It was a female. I was like, okay, you know what? She's dead. She's gone. I'll get another companion. The game still registered me as having a companion, so I literally played for a week, no companion. Went up against a dragon because I guess there's if I remember correctly, there's like dragons in the wild you could face against. As I'm facing this dragon, all of a sudden I get locked. My character turns to a mountain, and here she comes prancing down the fucking mountain, taking her sweet ass time as a dragon's ripping me to shreds. Just telling, and she's coming to me, gets right in my face, and enters a dialogue sequence that she got stuck in for a week, just so she could finish a side quest. And right then the dragon killed us both, and I was like, at that point I had to kind of step back for a little bit. It's still one of my favorite moments where it's intense battle. I get pulled away. I can't do anything. It's just Bethesda. God damn it, I love it.
Yeah. And the reason I asked if it's Lydia isn't Lydia the companion that's basically become a meme?
Yeah, I mean, the
specifically.
whole game is a meme.
That is true. That is true.
But yeah, she's the most renowned for being like such a pain in the ass. Definitely.
Yeah.
But, like, this is what I love about it. You just get these like stories and stuff that, like, everyone's experience of it is completely different. And yeah, you'll run into bugs and stuff like that, but as long as they're not breaking the game, which for me, I mean, that kind of sucks, to be fair. But when you get in the silly ones like Jedi, where it's like, you might die or whatever, but you're gonna kind of got a funny story off it. It's well worth it. Like I find those little moments like really, really funny and like part of the charm of the game, really.
Yeah. So that's the only thing you've been playing, isn't it? Have you played anything else?
I have played a good chunk of Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Actually, yeah, you did mention this.
I did kind of set myself, because I'm really trying to like beat down my backlog. I did set myself a little sort of set of rules where it's like I'll just play one RPG at once, and then Skyrim came out again and ruined all that. But I have been like playing solid Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is a turn-based RPG, which is a complete U-turn for this. Not a U-turn, but like a complete left turn for the series. And it's just the most bizarre, wacky, like insane shit you'll ever play, and I fucking love it. Like, I've got a summon that is a crawfish called Nancy, and it's just like, where'd you go from there? It's just so stupid and insane.
It is a fantastic game, and what I love about that sentence though is you are currently battling your backlog, so you decide to pick one of the longest games in your backlog as your starter.
Yeah.
No, let's not go for some of those like 20-hour, 25-hour games that you can play. Let's go for that 100+ hour game that's got more dialogue than most other games out there.
Well, like, I've never really finished a proper like JRPG type game like that. There's tons of dialogue. It's like hundreds of hours. So I set myself the challenge to actually finish one, and this one I'm going to finish, like, definitely, because the story's there. It's great. It's pulling me through. The combat's fun and interesting enough to sort of keep me coming back. I'm like discovering more and more things. I haven't played it since I started playing Skyrim again, though, which is a concern. But you said about starting the smaller games first, but I have been sort of plowing through some of the sort of 8 to 10 hour titles as well, just on like odd weekends and stuff. Another one I played quite recently was The Pathless, which is just like a 8-hour experience. It's incredible, similar to Journey, and the other one, Shadow of the Colossus, like mixed together. It's a really gorgeous game. But yeah, I'm getting sidetracked. But buy and play Skyrim.
That's it. Buy and play Skyrim. Any of the editions. It's been out for 11 years. 10 years. You'll find one of the editions that's suitable for you.
Yeah.
Jedi, what about yourself? Let's move away from Skyrim.
For me, I've been 2 games that have been kind of in my face recently: Hollow Knight and Darkest Dungeon. Both games are part of those those harder type games. Hollow Knight had always been on my backlog, and I kind of touched it a little bit, but decided to come back to it. I am absolutely in love with that game. I don't know if you guys have played that one. It is very much like a Souls-like game where it's brutal as hell, but it is just so damn fun, so cool, so good looking. It's a nice breath of fresh air so that I can keep playing and not get frustrated and throw things across the room. But it's been, I think I'm 2-3 weeks into it. I initially started to just play it, just get to the end, but I have been convinced, and people have told me to do this. I'm going for that 112% completion where it's actually doing everything plus, and I don't feel like it's a grind. It's really one of those games where, I stream it, but at the same time, on my off time, I'm doing all the little side shit, finding all the little grubs, exploring every little nook and cranny, and I haven't had that in a game in such a long time. And I keep sleeping on these games because Hollow Knight's been out for a while, and it's just been such a cool story, cool lore, cool mechanics, and I can't speak more highly enough of it.
Yeah, the art style alone for me in that game is just enough reason to at least try it out. It's fucking incredible. It's all sort of this hand drawn, like really sort of stylized with like really thick line work, and it's really simplistic, and it just looks it's chef's kiss. It's so good.
Yeah,
Just on
I
the art
haven't.
style alone.
I haven't played it well at all. But obviously you alluded to this just now when you're going through it. For any of our listeners or viewers, Jedi streams very regularly. He's actually, unlike Mike, he is a regular streamer.
Hey,
and-
I've been trying.
Mike, he's
I've
regular
been
now.
trying, man.
Hey, I didn't say that you weren't trying. Just that right now, I don't think you can be classed as a regular streamer. But Jedi, it's a factual assessment, is what it is, not fair. It's scientifically accurate. But Jedi does stream very regularly, and I have been watching this game through your streams. I often have it on in the background when I'm working, so I get to although I don't get to talk much, I do get to watch what's going on and sort of see what's happening. And it's a gorgeous looking game, and like you say, the art style is fantastic. And I would implore anybody who is interested and wants to know a bit more about the game to come and check out Jedi streams, because you get a real good feel for what the game's about and what's going on with it. And the thing I love is you don't set out to be a pro gamer or anything. Like I can feel your struggle sometimes in those games, and I'm coming away going, that's exactly what I'd be struggling with. So I feel like I get a real feel for what a game's about watching your streams as well.
And one of the things I'll say about Hollow Knight, outside of just the game itself, the community that watches it and that come in and kind of partake and chat about it, that community is probably one of the better communities I've come across. I think Mike was there for Subnautica. That community is kind of a bunch of a-holes. But the Hollow Knight ones, they come in like, hey, you know what? There's a piece of lore over here. I'll give you a tip on how to beat this one boss if you want it. Like, they don't come in and just say, spoiler, F you, and walk out, It's been really cool because, all the Dark Souls games, there's a lot of lore in there, but I'm never going to search that out unless someone points it out to me. Shoop, he helped me out in Bloodborne, and finding all the lore, finding all that stuff, it's just been really... this is the first game that I felt like it's elevated for me, and it's really cool.
Yeah, it is nice when the community gets involved with your game and sort of like is there on the journey with you, kind of thing. That's what kind of streaming's all about for me, and I know it is like for you as well, like Jedi. Yeah,
very true. Yeah. And one of the games that I like hopping into for just randoms is Fallen Order. Just because I know all the bosses, and there's one boss toward the end that I love sitting there and watching people just kind of get to it. So I just kind of sit back and just say, go ahead and do it. I want to see your reaction.
Yeah.
Just exploring that with other people is really cool, real fun.
Yeah.
That's a game that I like to dabble into sometimes when I hate my life, and I want to remember that my life isn't as bad as me playing that game.
You went through some shit that when you played that game, to be fair.
It's some real like trauma level shit that I went through that game. No, to be
did
fair,
you beat it?
I did beat it. It's that infamous story of the Stan Bush song. I did beat it, but right. it caused me a lot of stress. It was a challenge.
You had less trouble with
Bloodborne. I sailed through
sailed
through Demon Souls. I just really struggled with Fallen Order. But hey ho. And you say you've been in Darkest Dungeon as well?
Yeah, that was another game that I picked up, and it was on Game Pass, so I wanted to try that one out. I've seen a few people play it, and it's one of those ones where, first couple of rounds, I'm like, I don't really care too much, but it's definitely a brutal game in the sense that every win you feel accomplished. There is more strategy, more depth in that game than what it looks like, and it is a beast of a game. I got through it, again, with the help of some very good and helpful people in chat, but at the same time, it was just, it's very a rewarding game. The sequel just came out, and it's a little bit different, but at the same time, it's very much you have to strategize. You have to kind of go in there, or else one wrong move. The game is very much upon this. One wrong move, your entire team gets wiped out. It's permadeath. You have to start over with a new team. So it can be very frustrating, but it's also very satisfying as you kind of move forward up in the pecking order.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it there as well, by saying how the community helped you out. Like, it's another game where the community is they're along for the ride with you, and they're definitely there to help you out and not sort of backseat too much. From what I saw in your streams and other streams as well that I've watched out of that game, because it is one that I like to. I'm too scared to play it myself, kind of thing. So I just kind of watch streams of it, and it's a really interesting and fun watch.
Yeah, and I beat it on the lowest difficulty because no way in hell I'm going higher than that initially. And it punches you into the ground and just kicks you in the dick. Like it is really cool. I would say that the community itself is really fun, but Darkest Dungeon 2 kind of did change things up, and the community is kind of being dicks about it. But at the same time, the purists, the one that can see where the games are going, those ones are really really digging it and really positive about it.
The real ones.
The real ones.
Well, interesting. So,
what about yourself, Shane? What have you been playing, man?
Well, so I've got 3 games I want to talk about, but only one of them I'm going to go into any real detail on today. So I've had the luxury of playing Far Cry 6 this week, which so far I've not done much on it, and this is one that I'm going to talk about a little bit more detail in a later episode, probably next episode. But yeah, from what I've played of it so far, I've enjoyed it. It's Far Cry. It doesn't come away from the mold too much. You have an alligator which you can send to attack people. That's fun. The thing I've always found with Far Cry games is that the gunplay is super fun. The layouts of the missions are always super fun. And although, the storyline's always a little bit wishy-washy and some of the missions are a bit annoying, on the whole, it's a fun game mechanically. You can have a lot of fun with what you're doing, and a lot of the time you don't necessarily know why you're doing it or can necessarily care why you're doing it. You just like going out and having that fun with the guns and with what's available to you. And in this one, so I've only played about maybe 2 or 3 hours tops. In this one, they brought in these backpacks, so these resolver packs, and essentially you're working with like a guerrilla army. I say a guerrilla army, guerrilla resistance. They're not really an army. There's a very small group of them that are fighting back against the government. But these backpacks that they build you are like a modge podge of different ideas that are thrown together. So the one you start with can basically fire like a mini artillery attack out of your back. So you just like hunker down and it just fires like 8 mortars at whatever you want to aim it at. And it can fully wipe out a tank in one hit. So when you go, it adjusts how you tackle situations a bit better, because previously in Far Cry games, you come across a tank and you're like, oh, balls, how am I going to deal with this? I don't have the equipment on me. But actually having a mini 6 rocket launcher attached to my back, so it's a lot easier. You almost feel a little bit like Iron Man when he first crawls out the cave at the very beginning of Iron Man 1. Yeah, so far I've enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to it because I know you're going to try and get it on rental as well.
Yeah, it should be due tomorrow as we record this. So
awesome. So we're going to try and see if we get some co-op in at some point. See how that goes out, because the co-op on Far Cry is always one of the most fun parts. It's the raiding bases with friends is always good fun.
This type of gameplay loop is exactly what I want to play at the minute. Like I've been a bit downtrodden on shooters and a bit sort of tired of them and stuff like that. So jumping back into it, I feel like just some dumb fun with tons of explosions and shit like that is exactly what I need right now.
Oh, definitely. But yeah, so hopefully I'll have a bit more on that, like I say, in the coming episodes. I also downloaded Forza Horizon 5. I've never played a Forza game, mainly because I've never owned an Xbox to play a Forza game. But I've always played the Need for Speeds and all of those sort of racing games that have been on the other platforms. And so I thought I'd give this one a go. And yeah, I mean, I love it. I've only played a little bit of it so far, but the opening like I say mission, but like the opening scenario where you get to drive lots of different cars at the beginning feels like something out of Fast and Furious. Like it's cars being dropped out of planes into different scenarios, and you're just chopping and changing between each car, and then like getting to experience everything the island has to offer in like little mini tidbits for it to then open up and be like, here's your cars, go and do what you want. It's big open world, and it is a beautiful game. But then that's generally the case with driving games, is that they tend to be like visually stunning games anyway. You look at the GTs, Forzas, they've always been like pushing the boundaries of what the graphics can do, but then they're not obviously. They tend not to have a lot of people involved in them, and I imagine, and Jedi, you might be able to tell me otherwise, I imagine because of the nature of what they're rendering and what they're putting forward, it's a lot easier to have those higher quality graphics because it's mostly just cars and locations as opposed to lots of people and lots of things happening.
Not really. I would say car
completely stumps on that argument.
Sorry. So cars, the big hurdle with cars over people is all the reflections, all the materials for all the different types of cars. And ironically, I used to work on a car game, nothing fancy like this. It was a stupid mobile game, but we didn't have nearly enough the power and the people to do what these games do. But it very much is a huge thing to go ahead and make sure each material for each different car type looks good, reflects well, lighting is good on them. Like there's a lot that goes into them. And that's why these games are. That's why I can appreciate these games. I hate racing games, but I can appreciate the hell out of them because as you said, they look gorgeous, and it takes a lot of horsepower and people to make sure that it looks accurate and runs performant as well. Because you start adding reflections, that can kill your performance real quick.
I was about to say, I imagine then that obviously we've seen ray tracing in a lot of games, but for driving games, ray tracing must be like absolutely ideal for making those games look incredible because the way that the light bounces around.
As ray tracing was kind of becoming more accessible, I remember our 3D our artists were nerding out over that, and we're really excited to try to touch it and get it into our game. Again, we were on a mobile game, so there's no reason to have that. You're on a phone, no reason to have that level of detail. But at the same time, they were ready for it, and having that, it just again it elevates everything so much for car purists and enthusiasts.
I had a bit of a strange reaction to this game because I saw how well it reviewed, like it's getting 9s and 10s almost across the board. Yeah, and I was kind of like sneering at him. It's like sniggering at him because I'm like, it's not going to be Gran Turismo, is it? It's not going to be that good. But like the stuff that I've watched, like it looks fun. Like it looks real fun.
Honestly, it is so fun. And I mean, I'm currently driving around in a Corvette something. I don't know what I don't know anything about cars. Just the starter car.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that you can get the DeLorean in it.
Yeah, you can get some really fun.
On there.
You can get the Warthog from Halo in it as well. Like you can get some really fun vehicles in it. And like I said, I've got this Corvette that's like got some sort of mirrored paintwork with like, because there's again like in the sort of the Need for Speeds, the community can upload their own visuals to add to cars. So I've got one that's just got like random anime characters all over it, just because I thought I'm never going to do that in real life. Let's make it happen in the game and make it look really shit. And a friend of mine, he was telling me he's got a car that's just covered in Pikachus, just covered just because he can. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. But the game that I really wanted to talk about today is Guardians of the Galaxy. Have either of you had a chance to play this yet?
Not played.
I haven't played it. No, I've seen the trailers and kind of know a little bit what's it. I've watched some like impression videos and things like that. But
this was a weird game. This was a weird game for me. Just I haven't played it yet, but just I think I was there with you and a couple of folks in the Discord when they released when they announced it and they showed the trailer, and it was one of those things like, okay, this is actually kind of cool. It looks cool. And for like the 15 minutes of them showing it off, it was like the stock's dropping. My interest is dropping. I am so not interested in this game whatsoever.
Yeah.
But now I'm like interested again because people are like, it's actually good. So what you got, Shane?
It's firstly. The way it was sold with regards to like how they presented it was badly done. It was bad. There was too much of a focus on like because it showed like a basic clip out of the game, didn't like a 15-minute clip is what they showed.
Yeah.
And a lot of what it reminds me a little bit of Final Fantasy. I can't remember which one it was called, 4:15. If you guys ever got to play that, when you're driving around and you've got all like the well, for want of a better term, the banter happening between the lads in the car. They're all just chatting along.
Yeah,
You get a
yeah.
lot of that, and that
That's
didn't come through
that's
as
exactly what
well.
that trailer was like. It was like 15 minutes of the downtime in a game where it's just kind of like little chit chat conversations going on. You know, maybe like one or two fucking cubes of jelly shows up or whatever.
Yeah, and that I
And it
don't think
just
it sold
looks
it particularly
dull.
well.
But what I've seen after that, it looks a lot better than initially what they shown.
Yeah, and it definitely is, and
E3
I
or
think
whatever it
it's I think for me it's a tale of two sides. This is there's two sides to this game, and one side is substantially better than the other. That's not to say that the other side is bad. So the good side, narratively, is really good. The story that they've gone with, they've gone completely away from the MCU. It's not involved in the MCU. It feels like it's more set within the comic book world of Marvel. So it's set within its own universe. It feels a lot like how Spider-Man portrayed itself from a storyline point of view. Like you meet the characters very quickly, very early on, and the characters have been portrayed in a way that they're familiar to the characters that we know, but they're also different enough that they stand out separately to the ones that we know from the films. So the core elements of those characters still remain. Like Drax is still a little bit of a dumb muscle. Rocket's still very angry. Gamora's still a little bit kind of sarky, but very clever in what she says. Like all of those elements that we know from the Guardians are there, but they're portrayed in a way that's slightly different that makes you go, actually, I quite like this, and I actually prefer. I actually really like Gamora in the game. I think they've done her really well, and Rocket's really good as well. So yeah, narratively and character building, fantastic. Graphically, beautiful. Like they've done a really good job with the graphics. The Milano, the ship that they use, like it looks fantastic. And the thing with what they were showing in the trailers is, like you say, Mike, they were showing lots of that little chit chat, which is fine if you know the characters. The chit chat I'm really enjoying because I've now seen the characters get to the point they're in, so that chit chat now makes sense, as opposed to it just being random snippets from a storyline that I don't understand because I've not seen us get to that point.
Yeah, too out of context to make
Exactly.
make it interesting. Yeah.
The flip side of the coin, though, is mechanically it's a bit weird. At first, I fucking hated it, to be honest. There's no sprint or anything like that. There's Star-Lord runs at one speed. You only control Star-Lord. So for anyone who hasn't seen much about this game, you only control Star-Lord. You don't control each of the Guardians individually. You can't swap between them. You control one, and that's Star-Lord. There's no sprint or anything like that. He either walks or runs depending on what the story wants him to do. So depending on where you are, it's very, very linear, to the point that it's not. And I know that people have said, "Oh, Shane, but you moan about open world, you moan about linear." I get it, but for me, a good linear game is something like God of War, where it is linear, but it doesn't necessarily feel linear because there's this massive open world and you're going off on little paths and finding little secrets, but it's not actually open in any way. You're clearly guided down a specific path.
It's like linear with exploration, isn't it? Like you can go down these other ways, and
this just feels linear. It doesn't really feel like there's much exploration going on. And even if I do go off onto a little path, I don't really find anything. It doesn't feel really worth me searching for anything.
Can I just make a slight comparison, just going off what you're saying there and how the combat plays, where you only play as one character? It feels very similar as well. How you command your teammates to use their certain abilities and actions and stuff like that, don't you?
Yes.
Kind of similar to Mass Effect in that way. Like you can't sprint. You only get two speeds there. There's the slow and stop. But yeah, just going off what you were saying about it, it just sounds like kind of similar to Mass Effect and how that combat plays out.
A little bit, but also not.
Yeah.
The combat's are much more erratic, and just to clarify, and I will clarify as I go through this, the combat is better now that I've got a little bit more into it. The problem that I find with the combat is that Star-Lord is clunky and not fun. He has one move, which is shooting his 2 blasters, and that's pretty much it. That's all he can do, is run around in circles shooting 2 blasters. He has no other abilities. You can't change weapon. You can't use anything else. You can punch. There's a standard like melee button, and he can hover by using his jet boots. That's pretty much it. And that's pretty much it with him for quite a while. So I'm on chapter 8 or 9, which is about the halfway point. The other 3 characters. No, it is 4. The other 4 characters, as you said, Mike, you control their abilities. Now, the way that works is you have to hold L1 and then X. So I'm playing on PlayStation. X, square, triangle, and circle is one of the characters. So if I wanted to say Groot, I would have to hold L1, press square for Groot, and then I would have to press X, square, circle, or triangle again for what move I want him to use. So it's a little bit clunky in how you get them to use that moves, and it feels a little bit over the top and then sometimes unnecessary. And especially in the beginning when you only have one move available for each. And all it felt like I was doing was getting into an area, being swarmed by enemies, running around in a circle and just spamming the ability buttons. I didn't feel like I was controlling anything.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like the flow of battle was really down to me. It was just how many ability buttons can I spam quick enough to get everybody killed. But as the game's gone on a little bit, I've started to unlock these elemental attacks. It doesn't... Star-Lord still feels quite clunky. He still doesn't feel particularly fun to play, in my opinion. But he can now shoot like ice beams and he can shoot electric beams. Like I've got other abilities that I can use with him now on his guns. And now that I've unlocked other abilities with the Guardians as well, I can now choose depending on what situation I'm in. And I feel a little bit more like I've got control of the battlefield now to an extent. Still not massively though. There's still a lot of an element of just I'm just going to spam buttons and everything will die.
Yeah, that was the one sort of complaint that I saw, and I was watching sort of impression videos and things like that.
Yeah, that's my biggest issue. And if it was so, and it like Far Cry is a great comparison here, because Far Cry, arguably, it holds up on its gameplay and its story and characters are they're fun, but I mean, ever since VAS, nothing's really quite compared. But the gameplay is what makes that game so much fun to play. Whereas this
the point
is
where they're bringing VAS back in this game.
Exactly. Whereas this feels the other way around. It's the narrative and character creation that's making me want to play it more, not the gameplay. The gameplay is okay. It's it's above mediocre, but it's not fantastic by any means. The one thing that I absolutely hate, and I wish wasn't in it, and you don't have to use it, but it's useful, is the huddles. The huddles are the worst. So for anyone who doesn't know, basically as you're fighting, you build up I don't even know what it's called, like a huddle bar, and then you get to press L1 and R1 together, literally, and it basically calls in a huddle. And what this does is it cuts to a little mini scene where all the Guardians are like in your face talking, and you have to pick out keywords, which you don't really have to pick out because they come up on the screen, and then you have 2 options to pick from. And depending on whether you pick the right option based on the words that are on the screen will depend on whether the whole team gets a buff or whether you get a buff. That's essentially it. Now, the problem with this huddle system is every fucking line of dialogue in it is cheesy as fuck and is horrible. Like, it actually makes me, considering the game itself is quite cheesy in places, the lines in the huddle just make me want to vomit. There was one I did yesterday where they're like, they're bickering over who can kill the most people, and he's like, "We've got to dance together as a team." I'm like, "Oh my god, why is this happening?" And then the other thing with the huddles is they completely break the flow of the game, because you're in midway through combat, like there's loads of stuff going on, you're controlling all these different characters while trying to fight yourself, and then all of a sudden the complete game, like flow of the game, just stops and just starts shouting dialogue at you for a few seconds until you pick it, and then it goes back to the chaos of the game, and it just feels really clunky in the way that it's done. I do use them because they're useful. I don't like using them though, because I absolutely hate the change in the flow. But on the whole, I'd say the game is I'd honestly give it a 7, maybe an 8. Like it is good. I'm enjoying it a lot. It's a lot better than the way it was sold. I don't.
The story pulling you through kind of thing.
The
More than
story's
the
100% pulling me through. The characters are pulling me through, and the gameplay is enough that I don't hate it. Like it's just there's a lot of mechanical choices where I just think, why did you do that? Like this could have been so much more fun if you did it this way, or if you did something slightly different. And just Star-Lord himself is like I get it. He's a challenging character to have as a combat character, isn't he? He's just a bloke with some guns. Like I know that if you know his comic book storylines, if you've seen the films, there are some other elements to him, but he doesn't have any real powers. He just has some guns. He's not like some super assassin. He's not super strong. He's not like he can't fly. He can't shoot laser. He's not got a lot of powers that other superheroes have. He's just a bloke in space with guns and music. So I get how it can be difficult to portray him, but no, on the whole, I'd say it's well worth trying. But you need to get through the first 5 or 6 chapters before the mechanics and the combat actually feels pleasant. Because those first few chapters, it feels horrible.
It sounds like more of a rental to me than
100%.
anything else. Yeah.
I mean, bear in mind, I'm halfway through and I've only been playing it for like 2 or 3 days, and I've only been doing like a couple of hours a day. It's not a long game.
Yeah.
15, 20 hours max, I would imagine. I know how many. I won't say how many chapters there are, but I know I'm about the halfway mark, roughly. But no, it's like I say, it's enjoyable, and it'll be interesting to hear your guys' thoughts when you do get a chance to play it. See what you think if you're in agreement with what I've said. But I would give it a solid 7.
Yeah, it's
low 8.
It's on the list for me. It's on the rental list for sure.
Oh yeah,
probably won't be buying it, but yeah.
I wouldn't say it's worth full price.
I think this is one that I'm going to play with my kid. My son's like he's Marvel fan, loves Guardians of the Galaxy, all that stuff. So I think he'll find more enjoyment out of it than maybe I would. Because
this is the one thing
about combat and stuff like that. But
yeah, well, this is the one thing that I'm a little that for me, and I'm sure I know mechanically it probably would have been quite difficult, but like what you're saying, like obviously the MCU has become famous over the last 12 years, 13 years, something like that. So there's going to be people that are of an age where they've grown up with the MCU, but also have children that are getting into the MCU or getting into superheroes. This feels like the perfect game to have a offline couch co-op, like because of because it's a single player game, so having a couch co-op element to it wouldn't necessarily massively disrupt the single player flow of the story because it's not online. And it feels like for like yourself being a prime example, having the ability to play with your child as opposed to one of you playing the other one, watch, and vice versa, could have really opened it up for people when you think about, like say, the ages of where this could be aimed at. It's not a deal breaker by any means, but it could have been something really special for a lot of like people of similar age to us that have got kids to sit down with their kid and play through the storyline. 100% kid friendly. They don't swear in it. They say flark a lot, which we all know what that means. But for a kid to play it, it's fine. They're not gonna know. And there is a point where they say flark, and without giving anything away, spoiler free, like there is a point where someone from Earth says to Rocket, "I know what that means," and it kind of hints at the fact that it clearly is this. It is just fuck, but but they've done it in a way that there is no real swearing in it, so. It's as kid friendly as anything else Marvel, basically.
Yeah, amazing.
I think that was one of the the most disappointing things about the game was it's all single player. Like you're talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy, and the fact that you can't play with anybody else, whether it's couch or online or whatever, that feels like a huge disadvantage for this game. Especially considering the sister studio did the Avengers game, which wasn't great but had that functionality.
Yeah. Like you're playing as a team, but can you play together? No, single player.
No, not that kind of team. Sorry.
Yeah, not that one. But yeah, I mean, as I say, give it a try. I'd implore everybody to give it a try. But I would say, as you said, Mike, it's not. I wouldn't pay £60 for it or whatever it is in America, $80, $70, however much it costs over there. I wouldn't pay full price for it. I would look at getting it on a deal over Black Friday, over Christmas, or in our case, look at renting it. I don't know what rental options you've got over in America, but I'd look at renting it if that's a possibility wherever you live. Ultimately,
Yeah. Right.
but
Should we move on to some
yeah,
TVs and movies and shit like that? What we all been watching?
yeah. I mean, I'll let you
I-
guys go first because I've just talked for a very long time about
Yeah,
Guardians of the
go on.
Galaxy.
Jedi, fire away, man. What have you been
Sure.
watching this week?
So I'd say the biggest thing that I've seen recently was Shang-Chi came to Disney Plus, so I'm finally able to see it, and I really wish I had seen that in the theaters. Like, it is a really good movie. I know Cheese had seen it a while ago. I don't know if you guys saw it, but
I went to cinema to see it. I kind of went off the back of Cheese's impressions of it.
I still haven't seen it.
Yeah,
It's on my list.
You know, for once he wasn't wrong. So yeah, it was a good movie.
For once.
Just while he's not here, I can shit talk him all I like. So, but
yeah, I mean, we've been enjoying it. You know, we'd been waiting for a while to see this one, and you know, my Mrs. Jedi, she's a germaphobe, so we can't go out to the theaters just yet. So we've been kind of just watching everything as it comes out, and we had just gotten the new TV set up. Finally got the UHD, got to see it in the IMAX formatting, so it looked beautiful. It looked great. It's a really good kicking off point for new, not your mainstream MCU folks. It was again really well done. I really dug it.
Yeah, like the way the trailers set it out as sort of like it's like a kung fu Jackie Chan type movie. It has that vibe to it, like throughout the entire film, but then it gets really, really Marvel towards the end and just goes like. Obviously, I'm not going to go into any spoilers or anything like that, but it goes like just crazy. It's really good. But yeah, well worth a watch. And if you've got Disney Plus, it's one that should be top of your list.
Absolutely.
And if you've not got Disney Plus, it is a reason to just get it for at least a month just to watch that.
It's on my list to watch this week.
Yeah, good.
Absolutely, do it. Outside of that, you know, I've been watching just crap TV shows. I've been catching up on Lost in Space because the final season's coming out in December. So I've been just kind of catching up on that. That's one of those shows that I can watch on my own without the wife caring too much because she doesn't like it. So in this household, you have to watch things together, or else you know, there'll be hell to pay. Yeah. So the stuff I can watch, you know, and the only stuff that I can watch is the stuff that's really, really crappy. So that, or the stuff that like bores her, like The Expanse or something. So those have been kind of my things that I've been watching on the side, and then she's been watching the Alien movies. So you know, we went through 1 and 2, and then 3 started, and I'm like, fuck. So we have to finish up Prometheus and Covenant this weekend. But those have been the things that we've been rewatching and watching.
Nice. So from mine, I've been not watching too much this week. I did watch The Harder They Fall, which is the sort of Western with like an all black cast. It's such a superb movie. It's well worth a watch. It's on Netflix. It's one of their movies that's come out this week. Not this week, but last week. It's super stylish. I'm just casually holding a dummy in my hand. There's this dad life. But yeah, so yeah, it has all of the stuff that makes a Western great. Like all of the lighting is amazing, incredible. The cinematography, it's all there, and it has this amazing soundtrack to it as well that just goes along. Very similar to Django Unchained. Like music wise anyway, it's very like not of the period, if that makes sense. It's all like new age hip hop and stuff like that. And yeah, it's such a superb movie starring Idris Elba, who plays like the villain of the piece. Plays an amazing villain. He's really cool in it. But yeah, it's just my whole takeaway from it was it's just so stylish. Like throughout, like every character is really unique, really memorable, which is a big thing for me with characters. Like, if I can remember the name at the end of it, like that's the killer for me. That's the one. But yeah, I watched that. It's amazing. I think I scored it like a 9 or a 10 out of 10.
Nice.
But the one I wanted to talk about mainly was a show I watched a while back before we did our last episode, and this one hit me hard, like emotionally. It really was a gut punch. It's called Made on Netflix. It's been out for a while now. It's quite a difficult story to talk about because it's about kind of domestic violence in terms of like emotional abuse, financial abuse, and it delves into all of those without going too over the top on like things like violence and things like that. Yeah, there are elements of it and threat and things like that, but the themes of it are more like triggered towards emotional abuse. So just to start the story off, it's about a woman and her daughter who, in the first episode, they escaped from a domestic violence home, and it's about their journey. It's set in America in, I can't remember the town, but it kind of goes through all of the sort of trials and tribulations that you get with being sort of essentially homeless, and going through all of these difficult processes with things like government funding for things and homeless shelters and how they work. And there's one point where she's like got a 90-day period of like sheltered accommodation basically, and it's just this roller coaster of emotions. And by the end of it, I was just in absolute buckets of tears, like the most I've cried in such a long time. But it is well worth a watch, and I think maybe with having children, it kind of hits a little bit harder for me, and maybe for like other parents out there. I know Ellie was also crying. We were just in floods of tears, and it was at the end of the movie and the credits were rolling. I was like, I read that it was based on a book, and I like immediately picked up a copy of the book, which I've got with me now, and I'd like to read just the very first line, just because it really sets the tone. I can find it. Page 1 shouldn't be too hard. So like the first line of it is, my daughter learned to walk in a homeless shelter. That's literally line 1, sentence 1, and it really sets the tone. But it is well worth a watch. The acting is phenomenal. It's great. Stars. Sorry, about this. I don't know who it stars. I can't remember her name. I know she's friends with Cara Delevingne. They're like friends on it. I need to pull up her name, but yeah. So it's about her and her relationship with her mother and her father, and it goes through all of these like. I can see you both like researching the name there, but
Wait on it.
but yeah, to give her credit, that the main actress in it, which someone I'm sure will tell me the name in a second because I love this so much. I know all of the actors' names. She does a amazing job, and she again is another memorable character.
Is it the one who plays Alex?
Yes,
is Alex. Her name?
Yeah.
Margaret Qualley.
That's the one. That sounds right. She does an amazing job in this, and her daughter is adorable in it as well. And the person that plays her mother is a mother in real life, and they go through some serious shit as well. So it's all about all these relationships in a setting of sort of financial crisis essentially. And but yeah, just some real up moments and some real down moments. It's such a roller coaster, well worth a watch. I cannot recommend this enough. It's a straight 10 for me. Like, it made emotionalist me cry. Like, so that's something.
I mean, this has taken a real dark turn, this episode.
But I needed to talk about this, man. I needed to bring.
No, it's fine. In my search for who she is, interesting fact: she voiced Mama in Death Stranding.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I mean, neither did I until 4 seconds ago.
That's kind of put Death Stranding back on my radar now, knowing that, because yeah, that's interesting. No, Jedi saying that.
No.
It's the only video game I can see this linked to her voice. But yeah, interesting thing to add in there.
Yeah. So should probably talk about something a bit more lighthearted. But go
Well,
watch
I
this
can do
and
that. I can do that.
Go cry.
And I can segue it quite nicely with Netflix as well because I watched the new Netflix film yesterday, and it takes us in the complete opposite direction to where you've just taken us.
Okay.
And it doesn't cover domestic violence or living in a homeless shelter. And all the obviously it's fantastic that shows brought those sort of topics to the forefront, and obviously I know it's been picked up quite a lot of viewership recently. But I'm going to talk about something completely different, which is I don't know if you've got Netflix, you can't have missed this, which is Red Notice. It's a film that came out yesterday, I believe, and well, yesterday at the point of recording, which would have been the 13th of November.
I must have been busy watching The Maid or crying or something because I don't know what this is. I know who's in it, and that's about it.
So yeah, I mean, the trailer didn't show much about it, and it's one of these. It's a straight to Netflix film, but it's a difficult one to describe. And Jedi, it'd be interesting to see if you follow along with this. But my view is, it's ultimately a dumb, fun, slightly shit action film that is solely made tolerable and enjoyable by the fact that the top billed cast in it are Ryan Reynolds, Dwayne Johnson, and Gal Gadot. Those three together make the. If you swapped those three out for any other actors or actresses, I don't think this is a very good film. Ultimately,
nail on the head. Nail on the head.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar view with Free Guy. Like, I don't know why people thought that film was good because it was utter shit. It was only good because literally Ryan Reynolds was in it, and as a straight white male, you're obviously in love with Ryan Reynolds.
I mean, I am in love with it. I was actually discussing today, whilst at a christening, how I would quite happily have a threesome with Henry Cavill and Ryan Reynolds and be the meat in that sandwich. But yeah, no, it's a really fun. It's a little. Don't go into it expecting a super serious or super like interesting storyline because it is a little bit dumb. It is a little bit just like fun actiony, almost a bit like Fast and Furious level of fun actiony, but just without the ridiculous stunts.
Yeah.
And like I say, it's the entire film is Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds together, and it's a bit like it's got a bit of a Carmen Sandiego vibe to it, and like crooks chasing other crooks, trying to steal stuff while trying to outdo each other.
Ocean's 11, something like that.
Yeah, that sort of vibe to it. But because those two both bring a lot of charisma and a lot of fun to the roles that they play, and then you throw in Gal Gadot, who also brings a lot of fun and a lot of charisma to the role she plays, or just them three bouncing off of each other for an hour and a half is just fun, or 2 hours I think it is. It's just a lot of fun.
Interestingly, the one thing I did see about this film was that it was Netflix's biggest opening movie weekend.
Yeah, so it's Netflix's biggest opening movie, and this kind of shows in what I'm saying about like what it's like. The critics have given it on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a 39% on critically. They've said it's utter shit.
Yeah.
But the audience rating is 92%, which is the highest any Netflix movie has had to date. Because I think a lot of people have gone in like me and Jedi have and gone, I know this is going to be shit, but I also really like those three actors, and you know what? It's just going to be fun. I'm not going to have to think about it. I'm not going to go away and have an existential crisis afterwards. I'm just going to watch it, eat some popcorn, and then go to bed.
Yeah, it was definitely when I went into it, it was like, you know what, this is going to be a terrible movie, but we're going to go ahead and put it on. And it was like, wow, this was above terrible. I consider this a good movie.
There is one thing I will say, and again, spoiler free, but the film very much leads you down. It feels very, very predictable, and then it isn't. And like it throws a few twists in there, and you go, oh, didn't quite see that coming. Like there's a few bits where you just go, oh, I didn't. Yeah, but that was not where I thought this scene was going to go. It very much leads you down this is a super predictable action film, and then just throws in a couple of twists here and there just to throw you off a little bit, which I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, it sounds like something I'd be into just as a quick watch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Again,
no, definitely.
as Shane said, don't go into there thinking don't go in there serious. Just go in there expecting dumb popcorn movie.
Yeah, I'm not
I would
expecting to talk about this film in another week or so time.
no, and I also would say that anybody who goes into a film that's got Dwayne Johnson in, expecting it to be a super serious film, is an idiot anyway. Because
Or
let's be
Ryan
honest,
Reynolds to be fair.
yeah, exactly. Both of them do just like dumb fun films. That is
Yeah.
Dwayne Johnson is basically the modern day Arnie. He
Yeah,
just
yeah.
does dumb
Yep.
fun action films. That is his repertoire. It's just looking cool, fighting people, and being a bit of a nice guy.
Yeah.
That is
I don't know whether he still is, but like a while back, he was the most the highest paid actor in Hollywood or whatever. But I don't know whether he still is now, and maybe that's why the pull is there for it being like the biggest opening weekend, because it's got all these huge names that are like essentially household names now. That like Ryan Reynolds appears on almost every talk show ever. Same with The Rock. You know, Gal Gadot is famous for
she's
Wonder
doing
Woman,
really
I guess,
well. Yeah,
and some
she did
other
the
stuff.
two
Like,
Wonder Womans.
Yeah, but she's she's a huge name as well, just out of nowhere it seems. But yeah, already got this massive amount of pull, which is it's good. It's great for her, and the movies that she does are really good from what I've seen. That exception of Wonder Woman, I don't really like, but she was great in them. She was like her character's great, but just the films itself, not so much. But
Again, I don't think she necessarily does. Like, I can't. I'm just gonna look her up now because I can't think of any super serious films she does or she's done. That at least that I've watched. The titles I have seen her in have all been a little bit, like a little bit combat-y, like a little action-y, and a little bit fun. A bit like a slightly a more haired version of and slightly smaller version of Dwayne Johnson, but as a female with more hair and muscle. Because he's French.
Yeah, outside of this movie, Wonder Woman, and Fast and the Furious, I can't name anything that she's been a part of.
She was, yeah. I mean, yeah, pretty much nothing. She did Fast and Furious. She did a film called Death on the Nile, but that's not out till next year. Yeah, she got a few bits coming up, but yeah, I mean, Wonder Woman and Fast and Furious are her like key ones, and that sums it up, doesn't it? The fact that Fast and Furious, she was one of she was in that kind of sums up where you put her, much like Dwayne Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
But I know we're coming up towards the end of the episode now. But there is one last thing I wanted to talk about before I just touch on that. Is there anything you guys wanted to raise before we tie up?
I finished Slay the Spire. That was my backlog game. I actually slayed the Spire for my first go. I've been playing that game for such a long time now, but never actually managed to finish a run. But yeah, I've done it now, so I can tick that one off the backlog as completed. Even though there's so much more content after that. But yeah, that was it for me really. I've got more to say on Slay the Spire, but we'll save that for another episode, I think.
Jedi, is there anything you wanted to raise?
Played about a couple more days of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Still nowhere close to being done with it. I want to finish that game by the end of the year. I don't know if it's going to happen. That game is just so beastly, and there's just so much to do. I don't. If someone tells me they beat the game, I don't believe them. I'm sorry. There's no way anybody's beat that game.
It is a humongous game.
I think Cheese is finally burnt out on it too. So, yeah, and I think he's only about a third of the way through.
I think he said literally after the episode that he said he's been really enjoying it and absolutely hammering it. He stopped playing it completely.
Yeah, literally just stopped dead in his tracks. The last little thing I wanted to bring. So obviously we had our big anime last episode, and we've been touching on anime a lot. Last episode I spoke about the My Hero Academia third film was coming out, World Hero Mission. It came out. I've seen it, and what I will say is it's good. It's very, very good. Unlike the first two films, it felt much more like a longer episode. Like the other two films felt like separate stories that were put to the side and just added in, whereas this actually felt like part of the main series, but just a much, much, much longer episode. The way that it was like set out, the storyline just felt like a 2-hour episode as opposed to something that's been bolted onto the side. But yeah, if you're a My Hero Academia fan, if you've enjoyed what, or if you've just started getting into it, I would 100% say check it out. And if you just like to check out the odd anime films, it's one of those. The good thing about the My Hero films is you don't necessarily need to know the whole series. You don't need to know the previous films to enjoy it. It explains everything pretty quickly early on. You can get a feel for the characters pretty quickly. And overall, it's just a pretty well laid out film, and I enjoyed it a lot. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that just to touch us off with some anime, as we've been hitting that quite hard recently.
Yeah, I've been just to touch on anime again. I've been watching this anime, which is kind of from the viewpoint of a child, dealing with what seems like a menacing father. He has these sort of dead eyes, and this serial killer looks about him, and there's definitely something else that's like sinister going on there.
What's it called?
It's on Netflix. It's called Coco Melon. Have you seen it?
I haven't watched it yet, but I've seen it come up.
Yeah, you should watch it, man.
It's on my list. It's on my list.
Well, that was it. That was it for the episode. Yeah, we've been the Triple XP cast, the ever-changing Triple XP cast. There's a bunch of stuff we didn't quite cover this week. One of them being the GTA trilogy debacle. The other one being Disney Plus Day and all of the content that came with that. But if you want to talk about all that stuff, you can find us in the Discord. There'll be a link below somewhere. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Triple XP.